We continue with Jeffrey Pfeffer's 7 Rules of Power. In the previous part, we talked about get out of your own way, and now we're going deeper into the mindset of power. You need to practice a more advanced and uncomfortable skill: breaking the rules. To master power, the direct implication is that you can disregard the rules. What's the point of having power if you have to follow all the rules? Those with power can create rules. Those without power must passively obey. You must get used to taking a more proactive approach. Breaking rules can create psychological pressure because society expects you to follow the rules. Breaking rules means causing trouble, and causing trouble draws unusual attention, something most people cannot handle. It's in our nature not to bother others, to the point where we avoid seeking help even when it's justified. But you must change this mindset. Power is about giving orders. Why be afraid of inconveniencing others? Every year in Utah, USA, there's a film festival attended by various celebrities and social figures, and students from the Stanford MBA program also love to join. Pfeffer saw this as a chance for growth and challenged students each year. Could they find a way to meet these influential figures at the festival? The best way to meet these figures is through their dinners. However, these dinners are exclusive and require special invitations. Being a Stanford student alone won't cut it. One student handled it like this. She emailed the organizers, claiming to be a writer for Forbes magazine and expressing interest in attending the dinner. Hearing media, the organizers replied immediately, offering her a choice of Friday or Saturday dinner. Deliberately, she waited 48 hours before replying, saying she was busy on Friday, and asked if Saturday was possible. The organizers promptly sent her a reservation link. She debated bringing her boyfriend but didn't mention him during the reservation. However, he was available that evening, so she took him along. At the dinner entrance, the organizers questioned why she hadn't mentioned bringing another person. She calmly replied, "Well, we're both here." The organizers had no choice but to let both in. You see, this student wasn't a media person. She pretended to be one. Despite not being qualified, she attended the dinner. She wasn't supposed to bring someone extra, but she did. She broke many rules, yet she succeeded. Pfeffer greatly admired this. You might wonder, what is Stanford teaching these days? In fact, we've all seen people like this in life. I bet you don't like them and don't want to be one. If so, you need to reconsider what it means to break the rules. 1. Breaking the rules can yield special benefits. A significant feature of civilized society is that most people overly adhere to rules. From a young age, we're trained to be honest, obedient, avoid causing trouble, and never stir up conflict. Studies show that a typical employee spends about 3 hours per week dealing with some form of conflict. But most people have never received basic training on how to handle conflicts. This results in people not knowing how to respond to conflicts with leaders or colleagues. So people tend to avoid conflicts, even debates. They settle matters quietly and turn big issues into small ones. This presents you with an opportunity. If you dare to create conflict, and the other party doesn't, they'll often satisfy your demands to avoid confrontation. Then you succeed, right? That's why there's an American saying. It's easier to ask forgiveness than it is to get permission. Never mind if it's right or wrong, just get things done first. If others criticize you or breaking the rules later, you apologize. That's already a done deal. To minimize conflict, the most reasonable choice for them is to let it go. There's a famous architect in New York named Robert Moses. He was a genius, but geniuses often cause trouble. In architecture, as you may know, a major headache is government approvals. If you spend too much time waiting for approvals for each project, how many projects can you complete? Moses had so many achievements because he often started projects before getting government approval. Sometimes a park was already built before he applied for permission. When the government saw a well-built park with public acceptance and a renowned architect, could they order its demolition? Of course, there are risks. Some Chinese builders operate similarly, constructing before land approval, gambling that the government will ultimately acquiesce. But with many people doing this, sometimes the government may decide not to relent and demolish a beautifully built structure. However, risks are risks, and sometimes you have to try. Moreover, some trials are risk-free, like asking for help. Civilized society has two asymmetric customs. On one hand, everyone should mind their own business and avoid asking for help. On the other hand, if someone asks for your help, and you can assist, you're often willing to help. This asymmetry may stem from seeking help, being a lower status act, while helping others is higher status. We prefer higher status. There's an interesting study on helping behavior. Researchers recruited volunteers to perform two tasks on the street: pretending they forgot their phone and asking a stranger to borrow one, or pretending they didn't know the way to the gym and asking for directions. Simple, right? If they approached you, I believe you'd help. But 27% of volunteers withdrew from the experiment upon learning they'd have to ask strangers for help in public. It's like having many opportunities right in front of you that you don't use. Money lying on the ground that you don't pick up. Asking for a small favor. Even if rejected, what's the loss? We can see that those shameless enough to seek help often seize more opportunities. And you can be bolder. In large institutions like schools or big companies, getting things done often requires layers of approval, time, and effort with uncertain outcomes. Pfeffer's student story might inspire you. Without an appointment, he went straight to the top leader's office and made his request. Because this situation was so rare, the leader was caught off guard, didn't have time to think, and upon hearing the reasonable request, immediately approved it. Of course, approval isn't always guaranteed. But what do you lose by trying? 2. Breaking the rules can enhance your image. There's an image that people like, and there's an image that people think is powerful. These two images are different, even opposite. Research shows that powerful people often behave impolitely in conversations. They smile less, interrupt more, and speak louder. Our education from childhood contradicts this behavior, but we weren't educated to seek power. Researchers conducted a series of experiments proving that breaking the rules can make people perceive you as powerful. A group of people waited in a city hall for service, sitting quietly. Coffee was available on the counter, unattended, with no invitation to drink. Two men stood up. One helped himself to a cup of coffee, the other went to the restroom. Later, when surveyed, most people thought the one who took the coffee was stronger. For example, if you find a minor issue in the company's financial statements and ask the accountant if it should be corrected, the first accountant says, "It doesn't matter." These things happen often, and outside accountants won't notice it when they audit. Even if they do, we can explain it to them. The second accountant says, "It should be taken seriously, we must follow the rules." You guess right, people generally think the first accountant is stronger. In reality, those who are impolite, indifferent, intrude into others' territories, and disregard the law, are often perceived as more capable. 3. Breaking the rules is necessary, because rules limit you. A significant reason we break rules is that often, you can't win without doing so. Political scientist Ivan Aragintoft specifically studied historical wars, where the sides had at least a five-fold difference in military power, and found that the stronger side didn't always win. Especially from 1950 to 1999, 51.2% of the wars were won by the weaker side. Why? Because the weaker side fought with unrestricted warfare, like Middle Eastern guerrillas, against the US military. If you're the underdog, newcomer, or latecomer trying to compete with the strong, you must break the existing rules. That's why Chinese companies used to copy, counterfeit, and pirate international brands. We felt embarrassed, but economists understood it well. Without doing so, how could we get on stage? In the early stages of industrialization, the US directly copied Britain. Before the Industrial Revolution, Britain copied the Netherlands. Everyone has done it. Furthermore, those in power often create many rules to protect their special interests, to limit your development. By following the rules, you benefit them. Every change redistributes resources. If you want a share of power, you must change the existing rules. In summary, if you want to gain power, you can't be too honest or obedient, as obedience is the opposite of power. We previously wrote an article called The Bad Habits of Big Shots, citing content from Pfeffer's book Power, listing how people ascend by breaking the rules. You might ask, if everyone breaks the rules, won't society be chaotic? Indeed. There's an ecological balance issue here. When discussing game theory, we mentioned hawk-dove games. If there are too many hawks in society, it's advantageous to be a dove. But if most people are doves, you should be a hawk. I think for Chinese people, there are too few hawks. Our education and culture are dove-based. We dare not assert our rights at home or strive for power abroad. That won't work. Power is a game for hawks. A very simple yet profound realization is that following procedures isn't power. When someone commits a crime and a judge sentences them to death, that's not power. That's justice. In the movie Schindler's List, there's a famous line. Power is when we have every justification to kill, and we don't. Actively break the script, make your own decisions outside the process. That's power. Giving you power isn't about conforming to the world's norms, but testing the world's limits. It's not about adapting to the world, but changing it. Of course, I'm not telling you to be a troublemaker, constantly breaking rules. My advice is to break the rules only when necessary to achieve higher purposes. Lastly, let me share a story I saw online. A couple sat in a car at a crossroads, waiting for a red light, when a car behind them kept honking. They rolled down their window and learned it was a father rushing his child to the hospital, pleading loudly to let him pass. But the driver was unmoved, insisting on waiting for the red light to end to avoid a ticket. The woman had enough, asking why he couldn't let them pass. The man replied that it wouldn't make much difference. Why risk a ticket by running a red light? The woman didn't respond, and later broke up with him. I say she did the right thing. This person was not only indifferent, but also dared not violate any rules. What prospects does such a person have? That's the content of this section. Next, we'll discuss maintain your image.
If you feel there is value in this, please like, subscribe to this channel, and leave your thoughts or suggestions in the comments section. Let's grow together and read more good books.